So help me welcome Charlotte.
Thank you. I just want to open up in scripture. This is Romans 3:21 through 24. It's righteousness through faith. But now apart from the law, righteousness of God has been made known, to which the law and the prophets testify. The righteousness is given through faith in Jesus Christ, to whom all believe. There is no difference between the Jews and the Gentiles, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And all are justified freely by His grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. A lot of my story is based on a lot of tragedy, but even through the midst of it, God is still good. I was raised with two sisters. One's 2 years older, one's 2 years younger. And my first bout started when I was about 13 years old. We lived next door to the house that sold. And was in my bed taking a nap after school one evening. My mother was in school, night school, and my sisters come run up the steps in a panic and woke me up and told me that somebody was in our house with a gun. They kicked our back door down. Because I believe they were trying to get into the house next door. Anyway, they got into our house, and we were so afraid. When fear sets in, you never know where it's going to lead you. So we wind up locking ourselves in my parents' room, and we heard the guy coming up the steps. And the last thing I vividly remember was that my mom's padlock bust on the door. We had the window open high. We didn't even think to call the police. We jumped out the window. I fractured my hands because I landed like a dog on my hands and knees. My oldest sister fractured her back, both arms, both legs, and my younger sister Yvette cracked her head on the step and was in a coma for 3 months. In our home, we had pretty much what we wanted and needed because both our parents worked. So there were a lot of good things that I got to do. But after that, I had a fear, and I didn't really know if there was a God. Because we were 3 children that got hurt really bad. Then at that tender age of 13, we were under peer pressure. Going to school, I was introduced to marijuana and cigarettes because that was a cool thing to do, and I was the leader of my little crew, so I joined in. That soon turned to, by the age of 16, drinking beer. After that, going through high school was good. Started college. In college, I went to Temple University, and that's where I was introduced to pills and stuff that they had to put up my nose. One minute it put me to sleep, things we were taking, the next minute it kept me from sleeping. Anyway, this continued. I had my first daughter at the age of 20, and she was a blessing. God knew my heart then. You know, the one thing that I did cherish was being a mother. So at this time, I was still drinking, putting things up my nose. I was even transporting for a family member of mine. They paid me well, and I thought it was okay. I was a weekend warrior, no big deal. I was still taking care of my baby, still working, and still going to school. So I thought that that was okay. After 7 years after my oldest daughter, I had my second daughter, Brianna, and she was another blessing. She was a twin, and I lost one at birth. My next tragic thing that happened, I was very overprotective of my girls, and I never really let them go over their friends' houses or spend a night with anyone that had a brother, uncle, or father living at home. And Brianna thought it was really unfair that I did that to her, so I allowed her to go over her girlfriend's house after school. And then my daughters, her attitude changed. It changed in such an ugly way that they took Brianna from me and placed her in placing for a year. And she was speaking with the counselors there, and I remember them calling me one day and was like, "Do you know what happened to your daughter?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they told me that my baby had been raped. So when she did come home after doing that year placement, I talked to her. And I found out that day that I allowed her to go to her girlfriend's house. Her brother had gotten out of jail. He was a rapist, and he raped my baby, and he stabbed her. And she covered it all up. And I asked her how come she never told me. She said, "Because, Mommy, you'd be in jail right now." And she was absolutely right. So I was mixed up. I was confused when it happened. I was angry with God. But I still wanted to turn to him, so I told my daughter to pray. And I said, some women and girls get raped and they don't live to tell about it because they get killed. And my baby looked me in my face and said, I wish he would have killed me. I would have been better off. So I said, Brianna, you can't think like that. You have to give it to God. She said, there is no God, Mom, because the God you're talking about would have never let nothing like this happen to me. So I didn't have an answer for her. So now my head is really screwed up. I'm drinking more. I'm drugging more. Then I lost a real good friend to breast cancer. And I decided at that point that there was no way out for me except through the Lord. So I got baptized on July 19th, 1999. And 2 months after that, September 19, 1999, the Lord showed me just who he was. He said, you will not live on two sides of the fence. Serve me and another master. That's what I was doing. I was trying to go to church, and I got out of church, and I'm going to party and hang out and being my weekend warrior. But he wasn't having that. He sat me down, and he sat me down good. I was hit by a car. The young man that was driving was on pills, and he was very intoxicated when he hit me. And thank God, because I remembered the promise he made to me, that he would hear my cry. My faith was as small as a mustard seed. I remember praying when the car hit me and saying, Lord, you promised me if I kept my faith as small as a mustard seed, you would hear my cry. I said, please don't let this be the end of my life. I'm raising 2 girls without their fathers. And sure enough, he spared my life. But he said, Charlotte, you're going to go through something. People say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I beat that. A mind's a terrible thing to lose. Because from that car, hitting 4 parked cars, a porch, a pole, then pinning me up against the wall, breaking my coccyx, almost severed 2 toes, and 2 operations on his leg later, I was still here by the grace of God and still didn't realize how blessed I was. And I continued with my drug usage and drinking, but then I became diagnosed as having post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety and severe depression. My anxiety and the post-traumatic stress disorder was from the accident. The depression was because I kept having these attacks and didn't understand anything about them. I was seeing a psychiatrist. I've been off and on all different kinds of psych meds. Then 6 years ago on Christmas Day, my fiance dropped dead in front of me. After playing with our son, he dropped dead in front of me. So that was another time that I lost it. Depended on the drinking and the drugs just to take me out of those feelings that I was having. Then after that, my daughter Brianna, who had given me a lot of trouble for all the things that she went through, she changed her life and she turned it over to the will of God. And after she did that, and she started working and she was doing really well, there was a drug war going on in my neighborhood, and these guys were out this night looking for someone to go to battle with, and they didn't find the guys they were looking for. But my children decided to go outside to the corner store to get a pack of cigarettes, and they killed my nephew and shot Brianna. Brianna took 2 bullets. One went straight through her leg, and one went in her hip. She kept her hair short, like a boy, because she thinks she's not attractive anymore since she's been raped. So I still keep her in prayer. But at this time, the police thought there was 2 young men that were shot. Actually, it was my daughter and my nephew. Brianna was able to run even after being shot. But my nephew, when they hit him in his legs, and my neighbors told me they looked out the window, saw the guy stand over top of him and shoot him in the top of his head several times. So my cousin, his mother, she knew that her son was dying, but she was right there for me, because Brianna was still alive and fighting for her life. Now, I do understand, I didn't, how my cousin was able to be at the hospital with me every morning and still plan her son's funeral. I didn't understand it, but that was because she knew God. After Brianna got shot, then my father died, and this was 2 years ago. He died on Valentine's Day. So I looked up to them and was like, why are y'all messing up all my holidays? But that was God's call, and I trust Him. In the midst of all this, I'm still drinking, putting things up my nose, and it got to the point where I had a deviated septum. Couldn't breathe anymore, couldn't take anything up from my nose. I went on to the next level, smoking. And I thought at this time I was still working 2 jobs, put my kids through private schools and stuff, so I thought it was okay with what I was doing and that I wasn't hurting anybody. But as surely as I'm standing here, the continued use of anything foreign substances in your body will eventually hurt you physically. It even will hurt you mentally. I decided to give it all up last year. I'll be 51 in 2 weeks, so last year at the same time, I went into a recovery place. I was at Presbyterian Hospital for 2 weeks, and I went to Charter Fairmount for a month. Then I was blessed to get into a recovery house called Joy of Living. I stayed in Joy of Living for several months, maybe about 8. And then some misfortunate stuff happened at Joy of Living. People had started having things come up missing. And they didn't know who the culprit was at the time. Seems like every time I went in one of the rooms, I could hear people whispering. And I was already into my word by myself then, because that wasn't a Christian-based program, but I was into the Word, and I knew what was taking place. I knew I was being accused of something I didn't do. So they said that I had to be discharged due to non-payment of rent. I knew in my heart that it was for other reasons, but I was reluctant, but my heart knew to go with it. And I was introduced to a man named Bob Beck, and he had a program for women called the Redemption House. And it's a Christian-based program, and we still get to go over our 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I was accepted there, I was welcome there, and I can honestly testify that the Christian-based program does work. It does. Amen. Some people want to go. Some people want to go the route of AA. Some people want to do the route of just Christian recovery, Christian-based. I was blessed to have the best of both worlds. And so I've been there for 2 months now. Pretty much like the house mom when our other volunteers aren't there to stay with us. But I just wanted to say it's a wonderful program. If there's anybody who has anyone that's in trouble or battling this drug and alcohol disease out here, and you want to get them some help, that you should actually talk to Bob Beck. It's a beautiful program. We have some beautiful women. These are all my sisters here up in front. One car got here before the other car. One car got here before the other car, and I was sitting there. I was like, I'm not going on that stage unless my girls are there. So it's cool because I took possession of them because they are my girls, and I just wanted to share it with you, and I thank everybody for their attention.